If you were to define language as being on the basis of comprehension, that is to say, if I was to be speaking to you in a language that you just simply didn't understand, then we would assume that that's a separate language because there's not there's no comprehension on your part. A lot of people have called pidgin, Jamaican pidgin, or Creole. There's different words for it. A dialect of English, and I don't think it's a dialect. It's a separate language because I certainly couldn't understand a word of it when it was being spoken in among among people there in Jamaica and in various social forums, whether it was rum shops or yards or herb yards or wherever it was. I found it to be kind of a beautiful language. It had a lilting, it was certainly a melodic language. It had amazing kinds of metaphors in it, and they were extremely skillful at playing with words. It took me about 3 months, I think, before I was pretty much fluent in it. I did not tell them, however, that I was able to understand it fluently because I took advantage of it to be able to basically eavesdrop. I knew it wasn't going to last forever. I was in a rum shop one day. I had a few beers, and this guy was really provoking me, and he cursed me for something. I don't know what. He was very, very drunk. I was really tired of the guy. He was a pain in the ass. So I started cursing him back, but I cursed him in pidgin. So I probably called him a blood clot or a bumbo clot or whatever I called him. And as soon as those present heard me use those terms, they suddenly realized that I could speak pidgin. Jamaicans speak really two types of English. They speak what Aaron used to call English or proper English, as well as pidgin. They can understand anybody from Canada, the United States, or England, and they can respond to them. In pidgin, they never use the word I, except for, well, the Rastas use it for. Rastafarians use it for the word like I man and I, which means we, but that is a dialect within a language. They say me, so it's always me, man, things like that. So me is a subject pronoun as well as an object pronoun. As well, they don't distinguish in pronouns with gender, so it's always the male pronoun is used, and it's used as him. So they'd say, if they're talking about their wife, they would say something like, him tell me this or him tell me that. It's really that she's telling me that. Now, if they were speaking to you as a visitor from Canada or from America, they would say she. They do make those adjustments. They also have numerous words that are not found in English, if I can keep using that expression. Words like juke, and juke is a verb, and it means to be pierced with something or pricked with something. So, like with a thorn bush or something, they'd say that the thorn, it juke me man, right? And it's also used for sexually as well, that of a man, juking a woman. The word unu is their own invention. I wouldn't doubt it comes from, it may have African roots, I don't know. It's from the slave era, of course. Jamaica's a slave population. I didn't know how to spell it because I don't know whether when you read it in the book it sounds like oh no, right? But it's pronounced actually unu. So, and that's used as a subject pronoun and an object pronoun, and all it means is you. Aaron used the word unu to me once when I first met him, but he used it in a context where it was combined with yet another new word. He said, unu a jinal man. Right? You're a jinal man. A jinal meant, as I explained in the book, a jinal was something between a trickster, a hustler, a kind of deceitful person. I spelled it Ginnal because I assumed that the reader would think it would be gin, as in the booze, gin, right? And pick it up from there. But I heard a couple of people who've read the book talking about ginnals. So I don't know what you do with that stuff. But, so maybe I should have spelled it Jinnal. Another word that was used very commonly there was Sinti. I spelled it in the book Cinty. And a Sinti it simply meant a thing, something. You can imagine if you first go into a community where people are speaking pidgin, and I mean, at least if you're in those forums where that's all they're speaking, how difficult it could be to understand them, because you not only have a very strong accent over the words you're familiar with in English, which can mask them. You also have a very different grammar, if you will, and you also have individually different words. I had some misgivings initially about trying to replicate quotes in Pidgin in the book. And in fact, in one draft of it, I basically anglicized everything. But when I read them after, I realized that it was really, I don't know, it lost a lot of pizzazz, and it really didn't capture the language, which is a whole, well, language being the hallmark of culture, of all cultures. This is no less true in the case of Jamaica and Pidgin, which is just a wonderful language. How else could you match somebody saying, in describing the impact of a very strong type of a ganja that he'd gotten as, brainifying? I mean, you gotta love that, right? And to try to smooth that stuff out was impossible. So I took on the task of trying to record it in Pidgin. I really felt it was worth the effort to do it that way, and to build up the quotes that way. I'll also say too, I'll candidly here, that I took liberties with quotes to a certain extent, where I had phrases or things like that, and I built them into a sentence or whatever, because otherwise it just got to be too awkward to try to transcribe. Aaron was a singularly different individual from the other planters of Farmington, because unlike them, ganja was his mission and his sole occupation at the time. To him, the risks involved were the only reason the drug had any significant value in the first place, and you didn't cower from them. You dealt with them by any means you had to. Otherwise, as he put it, no bother with it. Keep your full ground, go church, stay poor, and cry, God, you reach your grave.